And here in our continuing coverage of the death of OJ Simpson, we want to bring into the conversation right now famed criminal defense attorney Alan Dershowitz, who is so instrumental to this moment in American legal history. He joins us. Mr. Dershowitz, thanks for being with us. If you could, when you got the news, when you heard the news, what was your gut reaction? What went through your mind today?
Well, I was sad. I had heard that OJ was very sick and was not likely to live a long time. But, you know, it brought back memories. I worked very closely with him for a 2-year period. We argued, we fought. The dream team was not a dream team. It was a nightmare team. Very few of us got along with each other. And people argued all the time, as lawyers do. But it brought back mixed memories. When I first heard about the murders, the morning it was reported, I went on television and I said I thought he was probably guilty. It's usually the spouse who does it, and he had a history of assaultive conduct. But then I got a call from Bob Shapiro saying you have to join the team because it's a death penalty case. He's facing the death penalty. And I have a policy of never turning down a death penalty case, so I agreed to take the case. And then I determined scientifically that he was being framed. That doesn't mean he wasn't guilty. I don't know. I can't say, and I won't say, whether I think he was actually guilty or not. But I can say that the evidence was overwhelming, that the police tampered with a piece of evidence. The sock, which contained blood of both OJ Simpson and one of his victims, but it also contained the chemical EDTA, which isn't found in the human body and is found in test tubes to prevent the blood from coagulating. So the police officer who poured the blood on the sock in order to create a piece of evidence didn't realize that it would be easy to catch him because the blood contained a telltale chemical.
You know, I wanted to ask you, too, about that question. Did he or didn't he do it? Is it fair to ask that question today? And, you know, despite the jury acquittal back in the mid-'90s, will we ever know the answer to that? Are people asking themselves that today?
Yes, it's always fair to ask the question. History has its own claims. Many guilty people are acquitted. Many innocent people are convicted. That's the nature of our legal system. We say better 10 guilty go free than 1 innocent be convicted, but we don't really mean it. And people have the right to have their own decision. What's clear is that the process was deeply flawed, that the Los Angeles police had been corrupted, particularly when it came to African-American defendants, and they had a history of planting evidence. Often it was planting guns on people who they shot so that they could claim self-defense. And we were able to demonstrate that, in this case, through hard scientific evidence.
You know, I'm just curious, too, when you transport yourself back there, and that moment everyone talks about during the trial when Johnny Cochran asked to put the glove on OJ Simpson, and, of course, we know the glove...
Oh, no. Let me stop you.
Sure.
Johnny Cochran did that. It was Chris Darden who did it. It was the prosecution who did it. And this is a very important distinction, because the prosecution could have asked him to try on the glove outside the jury in order to see whether it fit. And Chris Darden was so arrogant that he decided to do it in front of the jury. We would probably not have asked him to try on the glove, but it was Chris Darden, the prosecution, who did it. I was sitting just 2 feet away or 3 feet away from him at the time, and I saw the jury reaction. So it was a very dramatic moment in the courtroom.
You know, thank you for the correction there. But that moment, though, was it a slam dunk moment for the defense? Did the defense team look around and say, we have this in the bag now after that moment?
No, not in the bag, but it made a very important decision, because I was able, in the recess right after this happened, to try to persuade OJ not to take the witness stand. F. Lee Bailey wanted him to take the witness stand. I thought he would be a terrible witness. And I said to him, OJ, you've already testified in front of the jury. You showed them the glove didn't fit. It's too small. You weren't cross-examined. We've had the best of all possible worlds. So why do you have to take the chance and the risk of being cross-examined? And he agreed with me. And the best proof of the pudding is because he did take the stand in the civil case, and he was quickly found liable in the civil case. So that moment was a very important moment, but it wasn't a slam dunk. None of us knew until the verdict was read how it would come down. Some of us thought it would be a hung jury. Some of us thought it would be a conviction, some an acquittal. Once we saw they had made a decision within a very, very short time, we knew it wasn't a hung jury.
Okay.
At that point, we weren't sure whether it would be a conviction or an acquittal.
Despite some of the, kind of glaring mistakes and errors, some not inadvertent, to your point, on the part of the prosecution and LA law enforcement, what about the defense? I mean, did you have any regrets about how this was tried, about how this case was handled? And what was it like to have Simpson as a client?
Well, Simpson was a good client. He was very, very intelligent, very thoughtful. I had some deep regrets. I did not like Johnny Cochran's closing argument, and I told him that. I thought he did emphasize race too much, and I didn't like the fact that he was guarded and protected by people from the Farrakhan movement. So we had some disagreements, but a legal team has to try very hard to work together, and we did in the end, but not without some real disagreements about tactics.
Yeah. When was the last time you had spoken to him, just out of curiosity? Had it been a while?
Yeah, a few years ago. He used to call me from time to time just for legal advice, but not much after that second conviction when, he was convicted of trying to retrieve his memorabilia. That was a payback conviction. Clearly, they prosecuted him and they sentenced him to a long prison term to make up for the fact that they thought he had gotten away with double murder. And a lot of Americans think that, and they're entitled to. In fact, my book that I wrote about it, called Reasonable Doubts, the cover says this book is written for people who reasonably and honestly think that OJ got away with a double murder. Now let me explain why. And I did try to explain how the jury believed that there was tampering with evidence, and that's the reason they found a reason.
There's no public polling to kind of get the pulse of the American people, almost 30 years later, about whether they believe OJ did it or whether they don't believe he did it. I mean, will we ever know that answer, or will that question be left to history, do you think?
I think the vast majority of people think he did it. But history changes. He did. I think the vast majority of people think he did do it, but it's divided along racial lines. A very large percentage of African Americans think he didn't do it. A large percentage of non-African Americans think he did do it. So it showed the racial divide we have in our country.
Yeah, just lastly, sir, I mean, would you kind of cite this case, this trial? It was so high profile. The word that everyone's using today is, sensational. I mean, did it put your career on the map, so to speak? I mean, you're a fixture on cable news so often. I mean, do you think it kind of, charted the course of your future career, so to speak?
Not at all. I had already established myself in the Klaus von Bülow case, in the Throat case, and the Pentagon Papers case, many other cases. Probably hurt my career a little bit because people were so unhappy that I represented OJ Simpson. But then I represented President Trump in front of the Senate, and that was a much bigger deal in terms of hatred toward me by friends, colleagues, and even relatives. Look, we live in a divided country where people love you when you defend people they like, and they hate you when you defend people they don't like. But that's the nature of being a lawyer.
I wanted to ask you, too, what about the media and their role that they played in kind of the sensational hyping aspect of the trial? We had never seen anything like it, wall-to-wall coverage, not only the trial, but, of course, the chase there in L.A. of the white Bronco. Did the media have a part to play in making this so notorious?
Yes, they had two roles to play. First, broadcasting a trial was a very positive thing. It was really an American education on how trials work. And the polls showed that people who watched the whole trial were less surprised at the verdict than people who only read about it on television. But then there was the hyping stuff where everything everybody did was covered every minute of the day, starting, of course, with the chase. And that did bring a kind of reality, television reality, to the trial itself. And that was not a positive thing for the justice system. So a mixed verdict, a mixed legacy for OJ Simpson, and a divided America about the case.
Yeah, do you think the families of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson, are they feeling some type of closure today, do you think?
I don't know. I've met some members of the family, and as I've said before, if they had called me first, I probably would have defended them. I feel terrible for them. I feel terribly sorry for them. They have a reasonable basis for believing that a double murderer got off. They should not be critical of the defense team. They should be critical of the prosecutors, because the prosecutors did not do a good job in protecting the interest of the victims in this case.
Will anyone be or is right now as notorious, as infamous, as OJ Simpson? He kind of, after he got released from prison in 2017, he kind of dwindled into the Las Vegas scene there, into the twilight. Can you think of anyone?
Yeah, well, Donald Trump is more notorious, more divisive, and he's running for president. So that's the big difference. He's not disappearing anywhere. He's running, and everybody has a view on Donald Trump's guilt and innocence, just like everybody had a view on OJ Simpson.